Ever wondered what life was really like for a soldier in the trenches of World War I? We often see the dramatic charges and the epic battles in movies, but what about the other 99% of the time? What was the day-to-day grind like on the Western Front? Forget what you think you know, because today we're going from stand to stand down, exploring the grueling, mundane, and terrifying routine of a frontline soldier. It all began before the sun even thought about rising. Around an hour before dawn, a chilling cry would echo through the trench. Stand to, this was the most dangerous time of day. The dim, pre-dawn light was perfect for enemy raids, so every soldier, no matter how exhausted, had to climb onto the fire step. Peering over the top into the gloom of no man's land, they'd fix their bayonets, load their rifles, and wait. Hearts pounding, senses on high alert, they strained to see any movement, any shadow that seemed out of place. This tense vigil, often lasting for an hour, was a daily ritual of shared anxiety. It was a stark reminder that even in the quietest moments, death was only a heartbeat away. As the sun finally broke the horizon and the risk of a surprise attack lessened, the order for stand down would come. It wasn't a signal to relax, but a shift in gears. For many, this was the moment for the rum ration. A small amount of rum, distributed by an officer, was a welcome relief from the morning chill and the lingering tension. It was a small comfort, a moment of warmth in a cold, damp world. Following this, if they were lucky, breakfast would arrive. This usually meant a meager meal of bacon and stale bread, often cold by the time it reached the front line after being carried up from the field kitchens in the rear. It wasn't much, but it was fuel for the exhausting day ahead. With breakfast over, the real work began. The trenches were in a constant state of decay, and a soldier's life was one of endless labor. The primary job was trench maintenance. Constant shelling and relentless rain meant that the walls were always collapsing. Soldiers would spend hours rebuilding the parapets and parados with sandbags. They had to repair the wooden duckboards that lined the trench floor, trying to keep them from sinking into the inescapable mud. This mud, the infamous trench slime, was a foul-smelling mixture of clay, water, and human waste, and it got into everything. Another crucial task was pumping out water. Trenches would flood, sometimes waist-deep, leading to the dreaded trench foot, a painful condition that could lead to amputation. Beyond the heavy labor, there were countless other duties. Sentry duty was a 24/7 job. In 2-hour shifts, soldiers would be posted at observation points, using periscopes to avoid sniper fire while scanning no man's land for any enemy activity. Their reports were vital for intelligence. Others would be tasked with cleaning their rifles. In the mud and filth of the trenches, a clean, functioning weapon was a soldier's best friend. A jammed rifle in a critical moment was a death sentence, so they meticulously cleaned their gear every single day. The rest of the men might be sent to fetch supplies, repair barbed wire entanglements under the cover of darkness, or dig new latrines. The work was dirty, dangerous, and utterly relentless. So where was the downtime in all this? Free time was a rare and precious commodity, snatched in brief moments between duties. One of the most common activities was writing letters home. This was a vital link to the world they had left behind, a way to maintain their sanity and sense of self. Censors would read every letter, removing any sensitive information about location or morale, but soldiers found ways to communicate their feelings. Sleep was another luxury. It was never a long, peaceful rest. Soldiers would grab a few hours of sleep whenever they could, often slumped on the fire step or in a small, damp dugout carved into the side of the trench. They were always vulnerable, and their sleep was constantly interrupted by shell fire, the shouts of NCOs, or the gnawing of rats. And the rats ... they were everywhere. There were two main types, the brown and the black rat. They were monstrous, fattened on discarded rations and, grimly, on the dead. They would crawl over sleeping soldiers, steal food, and were a constant, unsettling presence. Lice were another torment. Living in the seams of their uniforms, they caused a condition known as trench fever, leading to intense pain and high fevers. Soldiers would try to kill them by running a lit candle along the seams of their clothing, a brief moment of relief in a constant battle against vermin. These were the unseen enemies, the ones that attacked morale and wore down the spirit just as effectively as any bullet. As evening approached, the cycle would repeat. The second stand-to of the day would take place at dusk, another period of high alert as darkness provided cover for enemy patrols. Once night fully fell, the trenches became a hive of activity. This was the time for the most dangerous work. Wiring parties would crawl out into no man's land to repair or lay new barbed wire, praying they wouldn't be spotted by an enemy flare, which would instantly expose them to machine gun fire. Raiding parties would sneak across to the enemy trenches to gather intelligence, take prisoners, or simply cause chaos. For those left in the trench, it was another long night of sentry duty, listening to the terrifying sounds of the dark, the whistle of incoming shells, the distant rattle of machine guns, and the eerie silence in between. This exhausting routine would typically last for about 4 to 8 days before a unit was rotated out. First, they'd move back to the support trenches, then further to the reserve lines. Finally, they'd get a brief rest period in a village or camp far behind the front. But this rest was often filled with more training, drills, and labor. It was a brief respite, but the psychological toll of the front line never truly left them. The constant threat of death, the horrific sights, the loss of comrades, it all added up. This cycle of frontline duty, support, reserve, and rest was the rhythm of a soldier's life, a brutal, repetitive dance with mortality. It was a world away from the heroic charges, defined by mud, labor, fear, and an extraordinary level of human endurance. So, the next time you think of World War I, remember the daily grind. Remember the stand-to in the cold dawn, the endless digging, the fight against mud and rats, and the quiet moments of terror and longing. It's in this routine that we find the true measure of the resilience and sacrifice of an entire generation. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this glimpse into history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. We'll see you in the next one.